This is the Jabberjaw Podcast Network. Visit jabberjawmedia.com for more shows like this one.
This show's sponsor is rockabilia.com. You know them, you love them. They are the one-stop shop for all things band merchandise. Their stuff is the real deal stuff. It is not bootleg. It is officially merchandise. And guess what? We actually have an exclusive Rockabilia design for my band, Bad Wolves. So if you go to rockabilia.com, put in Bad Wolves, you'll see it's an exclusive shirt. You can't get this one anywhere else. And if you want 15% off, use my discount code PCJabberjaw. There they go, there they go. Here we are, baby. It's the X-Men podcast. I'm your host, Doc Coyle. Thank you for tuning in. My greatest apologies for a gap between shows. I only put out one show so far this month in October. And primarily it's because I was on a European tour for about a month. And it was a grind. The actual tour itself, the shows were incredible. Battles got to open up for 3 Days Grace, Canadian rockers. And yeah, the shows were insane, huge. And we had no idea what we were kind of walking into. We didn't see any ticket sales or anything, or, how we would go over their, fairly mainstream band. And it was great. But on the opposite end of that was, we're on our fourth consecutive tour going back to April. And I'm going to be honest, guys, the Frayed Ends of Sanity, the Metallica song, I think that was what was going on that run. Every Tommy, our singer, he traveled from Australia and got a bronchial infection. Had missed a show. Was worried he would have to cancel the tour. And, I think everyone, you get over there and, the tour bus is not quite as comfortable as, maybe the U.S. tour bus. It's colder, it's grayer, it's raining. And, I think the confluence of everything actually really started to take its toll on the band and myself. And so with that, I think, it was, I know for myself, I was just kind of not coasting to the end, but really just trying to survive my way through in it. And the opportunities weren't always there to kind of work on the show in the way I like to. And then at the end of the tour, we got to go to Sweden, Tommy and I, to do some press. The record, or the single, Zombie single went gold there. And I was traveling a few days, and I was having insomnia, and then I got home and I went to Vegas, and it was just, it's been a really difficult stretch, despite how great the shows are. Just physically, like my neck went out on the last tour. Now it's kind of become a chronic thing, and my back went out before the tour, and that's kind of created this new thing. And so it's just been, it's been a lot. And this is, I think, I talk a lot about kind of the health factor of mental health, physical health, and all that. And there's a lot of downsides, which is why, bands who are much bigger and more established and can kind of call their own shots about their schedule don't tour like this, because it definitely, if you don't allow that kind of recovery time, you definitely start to feel the impact, and it's affected our relationships. It's, I said, affected our mental health, some of our physical health. And yeah, you just kind of have to deal with it. And because of that, I had the show, unfortunately, had to take a back seat to some of that stuff. But don't worry, I've been thinking about you guys, and, I feel bad about that. And it's funny, I had 2 shows in the can, but I wanted to be able to do my intros and outros. I've thought about just releasing, if I don't have time to actually do all this stuff, maybe just releasing the interview as a show. And, guys, maybe chime in, send me a message. Let me know if you'd be cool with that, or if you really need the intros and outros and kind of these little monologues, if that's really what needs for the show to be what it is. I'm not totally sure, but, I might start experimenting with that if I don't always have time to record this stuff in the way I like to. But with that, things are going great. I leave on Sunday to start the second leg of the 5 Finger Death Punch Breaking Benjamin tour in the United States, and then we go to Canada with 3 Days Grace. And by the way, I can't thank those guys enough. They were so great to us. They're really, really nice guys, and they went out of their way to make us feel comfortable. And I just want to thank them so much. And it makes me that much more excited to do the Canadian tour, because we know they're great guys, and then we have Nothing More, who, you know, we got along like gangbusters on the last tour. So it's nice to go into a couple tours where you know everyone. It's very familiar, and that's you know it's one less thing to worry about. So we're definitely going to end the year strong, and I'm just hopefully my body holds up, and I've been lucky enough not to get sick really, even though a lot of the people are getting sick. So it's from the outside looking in. I know you guys see the pictures and the videos. It just looks like we're living the life on high. And in many ways we are, but the other side of it is not as present, unless you're kind of in it, so I try and keep it real here as much as possible, and want to get give you guys a little insider's look into what's going on. And but overall, yeah, Europe, amazing. The fans there are amazing. We got to go to Eastern Europe. Well, not very much. We went to Czech Republic and Poland. Those shows were absolutely insane, and I can't be more excited to establish the band in that part of the world. And even though it's a little bit harder work and you're a little less comfortable, if you can invest the time in now, then you could definitely get the benefits in the long run. And I'm all about making those investments and sacrifices. So. Anyway, another thing I kind of want to talk about real quick is, we lost a metal brother recently, Ollie Herbert, the lead guitar player from All That Remains, and he was a friend, and we've lost, a lot of brothers and sisters in arms, in our scene, since however long, but it's kind of crazy. I feel like it's always been. Like Dave Brocky passed away, and he was, that's a band that took God Forbid out, and they were like the senior veteran, band. And, if someone like Mitch Looker passing away, and, Suicide Silence was kind of in the next wave of bands. And with Ollie, it's kind of like All That Remains. That was like my class, if you were to kind of use the analogy of high school. And it's the first person really in my class, in our group, of bands that we all came up at the same time, kind of bringing this style, whether you want to call it new wave American heavy metal or metalcore or whatever, what was going on in the Northeast. We were together, and, we did our first show with All That Remains at Lemoore in Brooklyn in 2000. And I'd seen them actually at the New England Metal Fest earlier that year, and I remember being really impressed. And Ollie was he was one of those guys where you just never heard anybody say anything bad about him. And I loved, my favorite thing about him is people who are unafraid to be a nerd and unafraid to be passionate about something. We call him the Metal Wizard because this guy just wore it on his sleeve. And I love that. I love that unbridled passion. Like, I definitely suggest you guys go check out the Jamie Josta episode with him, because you get to hear how open-minded he is, and how much he just loves, this guy just loves music, loves music. And one of the things about him and that band in particular, I always had so much respect for him is like never stopping getting better and never stopping improving. This guy just woodshedded and put hours and hours and hours into his playing to constantly get better. And that's so admirable, and the thing about him is it's rare these days because we're in a different era. I think when it comes to guitar and instrumental music, where you have someone who has a true identity and a sound. Ali played, man, he had a fucking sound. You knew exactly who it was. And there's just not many of those people left anymore. So it's a tremendous loss, and I send, my heart and, definitely sorrow out to all the guys and all that it means, because I've known those guys forever. And, his family and just everyone who cared. And you saw, the outpouring, man. That guy affected a lot of people. And it really bums me out every time I think about it. It's kind of hard to believe that it's a real thing. And just love Ali, and I'm really gonna miss him. And I just wanted to say a few words about him. So sending some love. So with that said, I'm going to move forward to this week's show sponsor. We have a band from Los Angeles called The Human Extinction, and we're going to play a track entitled Martial Law. Check it out. That was some heavy ass shit. Anyway, that was The Human Extinction, and that track, man, that was badass. I was feeling that. Martial Law. If you want to check them out, head over to their Facebook, and that's facebook.com/The Human Extinction, and their Instagram is THX_official. And they also have a YouTube page with a music video for that song, and it's THX official. Thank you so much to them for supporting this show, and please check them out. Like I said, when you guys check out and support the bands that support the show, it basically keeps this rolling over here, and it really means the world to me, especially when it's a really good band like it is today, and I appreciate them. So without all that bullshit out the way, not today bullshit, that's the real shit. I'm just saying the pre stuff, for you guys who probably came here to listen to my interview with CC from Black Veil Brides, just want to give a little precursor. I've known this guy, like 12, 13 years. And, been one of the real homies since I moved to LA. And, we've been talking about doing the show for quite some time, because I don't think a lot of people know about his background. But, Black Veil Brides, they've been so successful. And, it's, I just love having the homies on and see people doing well. So I think you guys are really going to enjoy this show. So please check out my conversation with Chris Mora, aka CC from Black Veil Brides. Check it. Did you get one of those drummer mics yet, like Tommy Lee or something yet?
No, the headset ones?
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing that.
You're not doing that? Come on, man.
No, I'm not doing that. My bass player does. He runs around with one of those things, and
See, Ash. See, you know what he should do is he should switch to keytar.
Keytar
instead of I think that's the next level from the headset.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were trying to bring the 80s thing back, for a while, but I don't know if we're going that 80s, going
Dragon Force keyboard player played keytar.
I saw a DJ recently that played keytar, and I didn't. I was like, okay.
You saw a DJ do that?
Yeah, he does live stuff with the keytar, but Dragon Force keytar. I've never
fucking keytar, bro. So he can go and shred with all the dudes.
How is that?
It's fucking amazing. If your heart runs red with the steel of heavy metal.
Yeah, and 280 BPM or whatever they're doing some fast shit there.
It's no joke. So deep are we in the bowels of Hollywood
Yeah, we're in the cuts, man. We're like right in the dead center, you know, where shit smeared on the sidewalk and people are wigging out and you're wondering if you're going to go home with a wallet still. But it's cool. We were having a conversation about me moving, and as much as I like this place, I think I'm a little over the...
You're done?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny when I got your address, I was like, and by the way, I won't post your address.
I mean, you can.
You're leaving.
Yeah, I'm leaving. I wish people would come here and just like harass the apartment complex. I have not such a great experience here.
Ryan Downey was saying that your singer was Andy he got doxxed, and then people like stalked his house or something.
Yeah, someone he told me somebody broke into his house and like stole a bunch of memorabilia.
Jesus.
I don't know exactly, or I don't know if it was broken into his house or his car or something, and stole a bunch of memorabilia. And it's pretty crazy, man. I've been to several other places I've lived at before this place. Like people would show up and like wait outside, and we're right across from this building over here, and there was like a bunch of like YouTube people that live there, and so there would just be kids outside just waiting for them to come out.
Oh, for like the YouTube stars.
Yeah, for like the YouTubers and stuff, and it's pretty gnarly. It's
they're the new rock stars.
They are, man. I remember doing like Warped Tour a few years back, and we were doing like VIP meet and greets, and then like they were like, I think that was the first year they had YouTubers on there. I was like, is that like a thing now? And they were like, kids were going nuts over them. Like seriously, they're like,
so they would have YouTubers on your YouTube do their show from Warped Tour, essentially.
They were just doing, I think, meet and greets at that point, and just like meeting the fans and like going to a booth and maybe doing like seminars or something. Possibly, I don't even know.
Well, they have their version of Comic-Con VidCon in San Diego, and I've seen footage here and there, and it's insane. It's like It's like they're the Beatles or something like that. And because the fan bases are extremely young, 12, 13.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's who, a lot of our success in Blackfield Brides was due, to like merchandising. It's from like the fanatical, almost maniacal at times, the fan base, and they want to just buy everything up, and they're so supportive. And we would land in South America somewhere, and there'd be like hundreds of, if not thousands, and you feel like Bieber. I mean, you're seeing, you're getting that now. It's like, what the hell? Like, it's.
Well, I don't know if we're getting like you guys. Maybe eventually. I mean, it's definitely changed. I mean, I think, but your guys in particular. I mean, it's so funny. So I have to talk about this. We met when you were playing with a band called Silent Civilian.
Yeah. That was back in
2005,
2006. Yeah.
And I didn't see you basically, I don't know how long you played with Silent Civilian after that. And for people who don't know, Silent Civilian was the band Johnny from Spineshank did afterward. And it was a little more like metal, a little more metalcore.
Yeah.
Really good band.
Oh, thanks, man.
And I don't know how long did you play with Silent Civilian?
So one day I found an ad online, and I don't even remember where it was. It was so long ago. It was probably like 2003, 2004. I want to say 2004. And it was Johnny Santos from Spine Check. I was like, oh, I remember that band. I was like, oh, I'll go audition. So I went to audition. I made it, and him and I just started this band and wrote an album in his living room. I bought an electronic kit, and we just did what we had to do. And got it out, and then we started touring on it. And I only did one album because we were just nonstop. We would go, I think, more than like 11 months. Like I would look at the dates, and it would literally not be like any time at home. Which, I mean, that's what when you're building a brand in a band,
you kind of have to. And if the opposite of that, if you don't have a bunch of tour dates, then it tends to die on the vine.
Exactly. And so it's feast or famine, so to speak.
It's hard to build momentum without touring.
Absolutely. And it wasn't the tour. I love touring. Like I love being on the road. But for what we were doing, we were just constantly,
you guys were grinding. You guys weren't at headliner status, so you probably weren't making much money.
Yeah, no, not at all. So like we were actually, I don't want to say mismanaged, but there was just a lot of bad business decisions that happened. And so, we eventually got to a level that we were on a bus, but we couldn't afford the bus. And so when we did headlining shows, we would be playing for like 60 people or something. But we were on, this is when Headbangers Ball was still around. So we'd be on, like, our videos were on MTV2, when Jamie's hosting that show, Jamie Josta. And we would hear ourselves on the radio, like on XM and stuff like that. But it didn't really like the success, didn't transfer to the financial level. And I was young and hungry. I was just like, I don't care. I just want to tour. I want to play rock, or metal or whatever.
Are you from out here?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in LA.
One of the few.
Yeah, man. I'm a bit more coastal than Hollywood. But,
What? Oh, so you're more from the west side?
Yeah, I grew up in a town called Rancho Palos Verdes. So it's like kind of by Long Beach, like down there by the coast and stuff. And so,
but that was your first big break, or
yeah. And so we started a band together. We did that. We did an album, and then I just felt like we weren't getting like enough push and this and that. And so I asked for a contract and kind of got slapped in the face from the record label at that time with like a huge contract that was just not. And
like 8 albums or something.
It was. I can't even remember, something bad, like everything, like just.
It was a 360 type.
Pretty much. And so like, and all my credit cards went to collections. I mean, we had band members quitting.
I remember that period.
Yeah, band members quitting left and right, and or getting fired, and so it was just like a constant revolving door of guitarists and like bass players. And Johnny and I were stuck through it, and then we bought this RV before we got in a bus. It was, or actually, I think we got it after. So I don't know if you remember, there was a show back in the day on MTV called Battle for Ozfest. Was that?
Oh yeah,
yeah. And so the band that won was a Dozen Furies
from Texas.
Yeah,
Austin.
and so we ended up buying their old converted RV with bunks and everything, and it was the biggest pile of shit ever. And I remember we got our trailer from Chimera in Ohio, and it was like a full-size bus trailer, but the RV, the frame was not strong enough to hold it. So eventually, after touring for a few weeks or a month or something, the frame started breaking. So we had to find a welder every other day to weld the frame and come out and weld the frame it was
literally falling apart.
Literally, we had like duct tape on the corners, and then it got to the point to where we had a hydraulic, with the pop out, like the slide out on an RV, and it got to the point where the hydraulic system broke, and we would go around corners, and the whole side would slide out, and we'd almost like tip over. It was just an absolute nightmare. It looked like worse than the Breaking Bad RV. And we were touring in it, and everyone's quitting, and like cars and collections. I used to have to like.
Was that the RV that you guys were on when we toured together? Or was that a rental? Wasn't that a rental RV when?
Oh yeah, we started in one of those like Cruise America or Cruise USA or Cruise America ones, yeah. And then it was just a nightmare, and it got too much, man. I couldn't afford to eat. Like all my credit cards were in collections. Like I used to have to go to Taco Bell and get like the hot sauces, and like when my parents would give me like the going away, like, oh, here's a bunch of snacks, I swear I remember squirting Taco Bell hot sauces on the Triscuits and being like, fuck, I'll just eat this for dinner. And it got to the point where I was eating every single day on the rider was like 2 pizzas, 2 Little Caesars, and I would just start vomiting after eating it every single day for lunch and dinner for 2 weeks straight. It was just like too much. And then like never coming home, I'm like, I'm just done. Like this facade, every time I would have time off, everyone's like, what's up, Rockstar? Oh man, I see you guys on MTV.
You're living the dream.
Yeah. And I'm just like, and I'm not like crying the blues or whatever, because I feel that it's very important to have that, and so
the Beatles did it.
Yeah. And any level of success I've gotten after that, different groups I've been in, I've always tried to just remember that. And like when times are bad, I'm always like, at least you're not stealing hot sauces from Taco Bell and squirting them on crackers.
I think that's the stereotypical idea of paying dues.
Yeah,
and we've heard it's a cliche.
Oh yeah,
but listen, some people get very lucky where the first thing they do becomes the biggest thing. Most of us are not.
Yeah.
And even a lot of those bands where eventually the band becomes really big, the early years are usually fairly rough.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fairy tale now to just start out, even mid-level, less than like the top. I mean, no one starts out at the top, but I had a great time doing it, and I did it for like 3 years, I think, like pretty much.
What did you
straight.
think you learned about that period that helped inform the decisions you would make in the future?
Oh man, all kinds of things. I think but tour etiquette, first of all, how to, when you would get on bigger tours and there was catering around to, let the headliners eat first. And like when I went out, and it wasn't,
no one told you.
No one told me.
You get yelled at.
Yeah, and I think it was a night on the El Nino tour, maybe even earlier than that I kind of made a mistake, and I was like, oh yeah, I should. Yeah, and I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, because you're starving, eating Triscuits.
Yeah. I mean, look at me. I'm like 120 pounds, soaking wet boots, and so it's like any sustenance I could get, I had to grab. But Yeah, things like that, like tour etiquette, just the way the things work, before we had a tour manager, we we're kind of tour managing ourselves. And so settling and dealing with stuff like that and budgets.
Just learning all the little nitty gritty of how a tour works. And
Yeah. Instead of like just thinking, oh, I'm going to get in a band, we're going to get signed and go on tour and this and that. And I mean, this is, I don't even know how, like over 15 years ago, and so I think things like that, where you could save money, where it's more important to invest and spend some money on it for a live show or crew, with like, we didn't start with like, we didn't even ever have a lighting guy in that band. But I mean, like we didn't start with we started with a couple technicians because we'd be too tired or whatever. And just people keeping, and then we got a sound guy eventually. We'd always use a house sound guy. And so we got a sound guy. And so just kind of figuring out what was the smartest decision to invest our money in. I learned some stuff like that, and I think probably the most important thing would be like just building connections and relationships with people. I mean, like I met you back in that period, and it's crazy that after all these years we still hang and talk. And I mean, I'm still friends with people I was on the very first tour ever, and yeah, it's crazy. That tour we were getting like $100 a night, and we joined that tour not knowing we were getting any guarantee. So we just did it like, oh, we'll figure it out. We'll live off of merch sales. And so then we went, there's a band called Nothing Face back in the day.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So that was our first cross country tour. And so it's like,
you guys got pretty good tours though. Good support slots.
Oh yeah. We were doing great. I mean, it wasn't all bad. I mean, honestly, that was like one of the best times of my life, And so looking back on it now, I sound all jaded and everything, but, back then I was having the time of my life. Those were my best years, just performing every night, because I was like finally able to realize that I could live my dream, And so for me, that was living the dream until collection agencies started calling, and I started getting like ending up in the emergency room for dehydration and all kinds of things. And I'm like, look, this is not going so well. So
do you remember the actual moment that made you quit, or did you quit, or were you kicked out?
Oh no, I quit, and then I came back to record the second record, and that was the time I got that contract, and I'm like, I'm just not gonna do this. Like I can't. So I went back to my day job, which was at a hospital. I was like, I can't, and I hated that job, but I figured like, hey, I could get like health insurance and actually make a salary and try to pay these credit cards off, and maybe I'll try it again. And so I did that for a few more years, and then I got the call to join Black Veil Brides. And so
at that point, how far along was Black Veil?
They were about to release their first album, and so they recorded their first album, and they were about to release it. And I worked with the two guitarists. I had a bunch of side projects in between Silent Civilian and Black Veil Brides, one of which was a band called 80 Proof Riot, which is Jake and Jinx that are in Black Veil.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so the three of us were jamming and doing like, heavier metal songs and stuff like that. But that didn't work out. We never performed, and I was just kind of like, I'm not going to waste my time just always in a rehearsal unit without any type of end game plan. And so, and funny enough, while we were doing that, Jinx met the singer of Black Veil, Andy, and then started working with Andy making music. And then Jinx asked Jake, like, oh, you want to come help like write an album for this band? So then they wrote the album, started going, and then they kind of realized that they needed somebody a little bit more fitting for the drummer position, I guess I could say. But
well, so you're in one of those bands, and I have these theories of mine about why certain bands work and why certain bands are successful. And I've mentioned this on the podcast, but I haven't talked about it in a while, that some of the most successful bands, all the members are like around the same height and same size. And you guys you're all like 120 something.
Yeah, man. Like,
and you're all about the same, similar height, and it works. I can imagine, in addition to your playing, which is obviously great, they looked at you and said, this guy fits in with what's going on, because there is, it is a band where visually and the aesthetic and the image is so vital to what you, because it is at its heart what is, because they say like what a brand is the idea that if I just say the word Coca-Cola, imagery and an idea, and that's what a brand is, and one of the best ways to convey that is through imagery.
Oh, for sure. You know, we're a very aesthetic band, and we back when we were doing in that period, we'd do like black paint all over our arms, and you know, kind of like the Motley Crue-esque haircuts, you know, and stuff like that. We kind of looked. It was a throwback to the 80s. I mean, we all grew up listening to Motley and Kiss, and I personally was a bit heavier.
What year was this?
This was back around 2009, 2010.
So now you have to correct something for me, or at least fill me in, because I remember seeing a video, or like a GIF for the young kids, of someone doing the crabcore. Was that Black Veil or was that Attack Attack?
Attack Attack.
You guys never crabcored?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that wasn't us. But yeah, we had like all the makeup on. We had our faces painted, and like it was pretty gnarly, and a bunch of black leather and stuff. But yeah, you're right. Like we all had black hair. We were all like really thin. You know, some dudes are shorter than others, but in pictures we all try to kind of be around the same height. Mm-hmm. And look, I mean, almost look like. I don't want to say a team, but you know, we had this like uniform look between
like a gang.
Us. Yeah, and so at that time it was so different. I don't want to say different. I mean, we didn't reinvent the wheel or anything. We were heavily influenced by a lot of different bands, and at that time, I think a lot of the success was contributed to, you know, the message that we were trying to convey, the imagery, and a lot of people hated it too, you know, like
of course. Well, I mean, you have that infamous moment. Was it the Metal Hammer Awards or
the Golden Gods? Gods. Yeah, that was pretty interesting. We just won Best Song of the Year, and literally, I can't even remember what year that was. Everyone was pissed because I think we beat out Avenged Sevenfold, and everyone was like, not, I would say, less than thrilled with the way the voting system went, but. Again, we have the gnarliest fans, you know, like we have,
because it was a fan voted award.
Yeah. And it's like, well, what did you expect? We have seriously the most dedicated fans. The last fan base I've seen like that would be like Slipknot in their like early days, you know? And it was very similar to that. And we would just blow away everybody in every fan voted award. I mean, we have so many awards from that because like the kids are just so diehard. I don't want to call them kids, but I mean, people of all shapes, sizes, and ages. I mean, it's like, they were just so fanatical about it. And
so when you joined the band, was it immediate in terms of was the momentum already there when you joined?
The momentum was going, but I think the momentum was on the way up, but kind of what like shot us off of, you know, into like the stratosphere, so to speak. After that was the follow-up record, like Set the World on Fire. So we did that. I remember we played Download, and our in the UK, and our ads were just everywhere, and we were on Kerrang TV. We were like doing all kinds of things. What label
were you guys on this?
Universal Republic.
Okay.
Yeah, well, Republic Records, which is also Universal. So the first album was on a record label called Standby, which I didn't record that. I wasn't a part of that album. Which currently we're going to be recording a 10-year re-release of that.
Just re-record the songs.
Yeah, re-record the songs, and so they may be. We haven't gotten into production about that yet, but I mean, they may be minor changes here and there. But I think it's going to be pretty similar but redone. And so I'm going to be doing the drums on those songs, and so it'll be a cool thing to listen to for the fans. But yeah, and so yeah, getting back to the award show, there was literally like. Some dude tried to fight me, and I was on stage, and I was like, "Get down here! I'll kick your ass!" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't know you. I just I won an award. Like, what do you want me to do?"
While you were on stage accepting
the award.
While
I'm on stage, my singer's like giving the acceptance speech, and like a dude, just like big dude, like biker dude, it would have smashed me, you know, like, and he was just like, "Get down here! I'll kick your ass!" And I'm like, "I didn't even do anything to you." And so you could see me, and I just started clapping, and by the end of the speech, he's like, "Oh, you're all right, man. You're all right." And I don't know if everyone was just hammered or what, but yeah, we definitely didn't make many friends that night. But again, I wouldn't have it any other way. I think that's awesome. And so until this day, there's people that's like, "Oh, that was awesome." And we went backstage, and Zakk Wylde, I mean, I wasn't buddies with him or anything, and he gave us like hugs. He was like, "Oh my God, that was so awesome." Like, because we were a pain in the ass. We were young, we were cocky, and you know, it's like we pissed everybody off, and we knew we did, and we would kind of do it even more if we didn't get the reaction we wanted. And so, I mean, I think that, you know, turned a lot of heads. And
I think that's one of the kind of best ideas, because not only did you win, because sometimes it's like this thing with Oscar films that win the Oscar, people rarely remember who won. They remember who kind of was snubbed. But you guys won, but it was almost like you were the underdog anyway because you got so much hate.
Yeah.
And so it became very memorable. And I think historically, artists that have longevity and artists that make an impact are artists that are very polarizing, right? So that evoke a strong reaction either way, whether that's they hate you or they love you.
Yeah, and we've won so many people over too. I mean, people would just read on the internet, hate comments on YouTube things or this and that, and honestly, we got tired of talking about it, and there were so many people that were turned on to the band, and then it started becoming like, I don't understand why everyone hates these guys. Like, yeah, I don't really like the way they look, and we kind of toned down. We didn't change for anybody. We just felt like that wasn't us. I mean, I was literally brushing paint chips out of my bunk every night because I was just completely painted like a fence from my waist up, to my, it was. So we kind of tiled it down a bit, and it was gross, but I mean, and we kind of just never went away, and we kept doing tours, doing albums and stuff. I mean, we have a lot more time off now in between albums and stuff, and we're not pumping out an album like every year like we used to. But we were working really hard and pissing people off on the process, and I think it all worked out, to the band's benefit in the end.
Well, I think one of the things that's really funny is how me and you reconnected was I wasn't even living in LA yet. I was visiting. I think it was actually literally after the last God Forbid tour ever, and I spent like a week in LA just hanging out, and Steel Panther was playing. And we were up in the foundation room at the House of Blues. Yeah. And we were in it was a hallway, and we ran into each other, and you were like, Doc, it's Cece, man. I'm from Science of It. I'm in Black Veil Brides right now. And I met Jinx, I think I met that night as well. And he was super nice, and you were just so cool.
Oh, thanks, man.
And it's just kind of cool to see people who are in one station, right? Yeah. And in the environment where you're in a struggling band, and there's a million of those people out there that are just grinding it, right? Yeah. Like you said, eating the Triscuits and getting a call from the credit card man and right? So that there's a million of those people, but there's only a handful that get to kind of break out and get to be in a band that actually has a real career and does big touring and it has, it's like, you look at, your notoriety in terms of just attention, like how many Twitter followers do you have?
I think like 485,000. Yeah.
1,000. How many Instagram followers you got?
Oh, man, I think that's at I think it's a little bit less, at like 457 or something.
All right, so that's a type of social capital that actually has a monetary value, right? Like, I don't know if people reach out to you, but they have influencers, right? So they'll pay someone who has a lot of followers to wear a jacket and post a picture or post it. I don't know if people ask you do things like that, but clearly there's whatever success level the band has had. It's also had this kind of fallout where you've gotten notoriety as an individual.
Yeah, it's crazy, and because of the Triscuit story and everything, I've never tried to lose sight of how fortunate I was. And for that same thing, you say there's millions of people out there. There's millions of more talented musicians than myself, and I know that, and I always try to stay humble and never get an ego or anything. You turn it on and off when you're performing.
You have to, because I don't think you can be a very dynamic performer if you're up there doubting yourself and not thinking you're great. Like, you kind of have to think you're great for that moment to do a move or feel it a certain way or express it. It's in a sense, even if you're not wearing the makeup, you have to put on a mask.
Sure, absolutely.
Of the metaphorically of this badass. And listen, you even just being on tour, you kind of have to wear that. You have to be on to a certain degree, or kind of be that person, because you guys still do meet and greets and things like that.
Yeah, we still do those. Yeah.
So they I think it was Paul Stanley. He was complaining about one of the reasons why I think rock has suffered overall is that that post grunge era is that a lot of the bands started to take the mentality of being regular people and looking like regular people, and he thought that to really expand the genre and have a big success, and like on a global sense and in a cultural sense, you have to be larger than life.
Yeah.
And that's a big reason why most of the rock stars are rappers now.
Yeah.
Or because they don't look like normal people, they don't act like normal people, and it creates this level of aspirational kind of like it's not really obvious, but it's there, and then there's an absence of that, and you guys kind of brought that back in a way.
Yeah, I mean, we had to. I feel, I'm playing with some of the most talented dudes I know, and everyone's giving it their all, and we kind of would all push each other further, and especially wearing the makeup and those outfits, and so we had to kind of live up to expectations and things like that, and we did want to be larger than life, and we wanted to look a certain way and act a certain way, and immediately, in our earlier years in our career, we would be walking around these festivals, and people would like look at us or whatever, laugh or whatever, but they still knew who we were, excuse me. I didn't know who the hell they were, and I'm like, I don't know who you are, but you know who I am. And I wouldn't walk around like that or say that, but in my head, it's like, well, like you're talking about earlier, like building a brand, you have this imagery about when you think of a name, you have this imagery of what it is. And so we were definitely doing that with the aesthetics and all of the get up and the makeup and stuff like that. But, yeah, man, you definitely got to give them something that's larger than life now. There's too many amazing people out there, or amazingly talented, I should say, that just kind of blend in. And so I think. Do
you guys spend a lot of money on like production, things like that, to elevate the show? And
yeah, we did a co-headliner the first few months of this year, and we split a video wall with Asking Alexandria, and so we did that. We have like a lighting guy. Sound. I mean, we don't have like
no pyro yet.
We do pyro, not every night, but when we have like big shows, like we'll do pyro like Brixton or festivals and stuff like that. And so like I always love those shows because I never, there's always something that's going on, and I love pyro. Like that was always a dream of mine, to be in a band that got to like the level that you can use pyro and stuff. And yeah, sometimes they do different pyro, and I get caught up with just staring at like what's going on stage, pyrotechnically wise, I should say. I know that's not a word, but I don't know. I love fireworks. If you look around that corner, I have fireworks right over there. I have a big cake that I got while I was on tour in Utah. I'm kind of
sitting right next to the radiator, guys. It's really dangerous over there.
Yeah. I like to live life on the edge. Yeah, but yeah, I love fireworks and pyro and stuff like that.
So you did a record with Bob Rock.
Yeah.
Okay, now for people like me, Metallica junkies, Metallica nerds, and even the records he did with Motley Crue and Bon Jovi. I mean, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, rock producer the last 20 years. How did that all even come about?
I think he reached out to us, if I believe. He reached out, and I remember hearing that we might work with Bob Rock, and I was like, what? Like, that's seriously? Like, that's crazy. So we had a meeting with him at a place called, it was kind of a diner, like breakfast type place called Swingers in, I don't know.
I know Swingers. It's right on Beverly.
Yeah, that place. And we had a meeting with him there, and and it kind of just, we talked, we liked him, he liked us, and we kind of worked things out. And he came, and it was the first time we ever worked with a producer that would kind of orchestrate us. Like, okay, now you do this and you do this. And he was.
So he would come to your rehearsals, or?
Yeah, so we worked at Mates, and so we just rented out Mates, I think, for like a month, and we were just in there writing with all of us in a room writing together, and he was kind of orchestrating and like, oh, what about this? And having Jake and Jinx, like they work together, it's almost like they share a brain. It's crazy. And even Bob was like, I've never seen anything like this. Like, it's just crazy, seeing like especially working with Metallica, and how influential are those guitarists. But Jake and Jinx kind of one would come up with a riff, the other one would finish it, and they would just trade. Oh, you got something for the bridge? I have the perfect idea, and they would just do the guitars and blah blah blah, and it would work. And we would talk about drums. Then I did drums in North Hollywood. And then after I finished drums, we finished the album in Vancouver. He moved us to the warehouse, which I think he did a Motley record there, if I'm not mistaken. He wanted us to be like where they were in Vancouver, so we went up there.
So were you guys were going into Mates with nothing, or you would have ideas kind of already mapped out, and then that was part of the fleshing out process? Or
We had both. We created some new ideas in the studio and would write, and then we also had like demos, or like Jake would present an idea or Jinx would present an idea that they would like, do scratch guitars or whatever, map out on their own. And so we would do kind of both. We would have people bring in ideas, and then we'd also create, in the studio. And it was kind of a little bit of both, which was pretty cool. And we never have done a record like that. That was the only time we did that, and it was really interesting. He was one of my favorite producers I've ever worked with. He was great. I mean, honestly, he's like a Canadian that lives in Maui. How much more laid back can you get, right? Like and his stories about all the dudes, and just his like pictures he would share with us and his stories, and he's a legend. And so, it was really good spending time with him and working with him. I really enjoyed it.
Well, I mean, as a drummer, I mean, the drum tones that he's gotten are some of the biggest and craziest drum sounds. Was he dropping some secrets? Was he giving you the secret sauce, man?
He would tell us a couple things about what he's done in the past. And actually, this is funny enough. I just saw a video. This is great. He never saw a Kemper before he worked with us, and so he was like, "What the hell is this?" And we were like, "Oh, like check out the Kemper," which is similar, for those that don't know, kind of like Axe Effects if you're a guitarist, and pretty much it's an amplifier that emulates whatever amplifier you could plug it into, and or microphone that comes out of the cabinet.
It's a digital simulation that many believe. I also have one. Many believe that it's the best digital recreation of the sound of an amp ever to this point.
Yeah. And so we turned him on, and he liked it so much and was fascinated by the technology that he eventually bought one. And he just someone posted a video. Maybe it was Tommy Lee or Nikki Sixx or somebody. They're working with Bob again, and I saw the Kemper. I was like, see what happened. But yeah, it was great working with him. He taught us a lot of the old school things, and I think. I don't even want to give details about how much money was spent on, like the Black album and how much they spent on tape.
I think it was $1 million.
Yeah, but like the
in
tape,
that range.
I think it was like 75,000 just on like the tape. Like, it was crazy. Like just
2-inch tape is expensive, and they did a lot of takes, and they did all the editing by hand.
Yeah,
with the drums, they cut it. Yeah.
I can't even imagine that, with the technology evolving so much with, things like Pro Tools and Ableton and things like that, and Kempers, and man, it's come so far. And a lot of people think you lose things. I
think it is a different sound.
Yeah.
And I've done 2 records on 2-inch tape.
Yeah.
And there's definitely something there that's different, and we did that on 2-inch tape with no click.
Oh man, really?
Wow. Just as essentially as raw as you can be in it. And there's something to that. It wasn't like you couldn't punch in or things like that. We would still punch in licks or things like that, but there was definitely, I think, a different kind of pressure and a different kind of energy, and if you can be someone like Dave Grohl, for example, who bought the board from Sound City, and then they did, at least I don't know about the last record. I think they might have, but I know Wasting Light, they did it on 2-inch tape, and it's hard to tell, I think, these days, because every avenue, because even if you record it analog, you're still going to master it digitally. It's still mainly going to be heard in digital platforms. But I think there is something with the way the instruments hit the tape. It has a way of like everything, I think, sounds more separate.
Yeah.
Whereas I think digitally everything just tends to blend together a little more, if that makes sense.
Yeah. My drum teacher, I mean, this is a little off topic, but he always told me never rely on an engineer, to make you good. Like make sure you're good. And I kind of feel that almost coincides with the idea of Pro Tools, where a lot of people are just like, oh, I'll fix it, I'll punch it in, just completely change parts. And you're like, I didn't even play that, and it feels like the soul. I think I did like an EP on tape years and years and years ago, but I haven't done any recordings, in the past 10 years on tape?
I mean, most of us haven't.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like, I'd actually like to try that sometime to see the difference and feel
I think tape is definitely harder to find, and then also having studios that have the equipment, have engineers that can run it. I definitely lament, my other band, Vegas Nerve. We tracked most of our basic rhythms live with the band, like in the room. We still played to a click, but everyone was in a room and we tried to capture
that's awesome,
a vibe. But you need to have the type of songs that I think work in that environment, and then also have the musicians that can pull it off and be in the moment and just just kind of have that feel. It's not easy, I think, depending on the type of music you do.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree with that. Thankfully I got like two of the best guitarists I know. They're sick dudes. They're awesome. Even seeing them play, and one of them does like violins and cellos, which adds a whole new element to some of our records. He can just orchestrate literally a whole orchestra by himself. He'll just nerd out in his home studio, and then a day or two later I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, and he's super. I go to Jinx's house and he goes like, look what I just bought. I bought a harpsichord. His like favorite band, so to speak, is Mozart. So like, he's like really, really classically influenced, which is amazing. I mean, and some of our albums, he just has a whole overture of just like orchestrated parts, which are all of like the choruses and melodies of some of like the singles that we know are going to come out as singles. And he's does them all on strings. And it's kind of like this whole, melting pot, I guess, of all these different songs and ideas, and he just blends them together beautifully. And so it's really cool to be in a band with somebody that's capable of doing things like that.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I can't do that.
I
can bullshit. We actually used this guy Michael Romeo, who's the lead guitar player from Symphony X, one of my favorite metal bands from Jersey, and we had a few symphonic sections on the last two God Forbid records that he did for us, but he does it all on the computer, and he uses essentially the same software that they score films with.
Oh wow, yeah.
I think it's called Vienna Strings.
Yeah,
but he's one of those guys. He understands how to actually compose and arrange.
Jinx actually scored a film. I went to the red carpet thing on that, and it was like a horror film, and it was amazing to see him. I was like, how did you even know how to do this? Like, how did you get started?
He's all self-taught.
Yeah. And he was like, oh man, I was stressed out. I just had to learn. It was like, I forget which terms he used, pretty much like fight or flight type thing. And I was like, wow, like watching his score on a big like horror thriller type movie in a movie theater. It was like the Regency or whatever downtown. It's like, wow, it's amazing. So yeah, it's cool. And then on the other side, you have Jake that comes up with a lot of like the other things. And so having those two guys, blend together as the guitar section of the group, it's really interesting to see them work together.
Right on. How did the record do? Did you guys feel an uptick, or like get a little more love from radio, or have an impact because of who was working on it or the types of songs?
It was more the record before that. We worked with a producer that was John Feldman, which is more I guess I don't want to say current, but I don't know what the right term is, but his way of writing is, I guess, a bit more radio friendly. And so, he likes to have drums pulled back a lot more, like not so much double bass and things like that. And so we went from John Feldman to Bob Rock, and we knew it was going to be like a heavier rock record. And so, some of the active rock, it did well. I don't know. I think that one, I'm not sure how high we got on the Billboard. It was top 20 for sure.
Yeah.
Top 15, I would imagine. Maybe 17 with Bob, or
Was that your biggest debut?
No, our biggest one, I think we got to 7.
Wow.
That was our best. But yeah, we did. I had a great time recording the album, and playing the songs live. It was incredible. But we went back to more of the record after that, back to John Feldman, and so there's a lot more ear candy, so to speak, and Pro Tools, and so where Bob's knowledge as far as doing orchestrating and just overall like getting that raw, that feeling in I think it's a completely different vibe than working with a guy like John Feldman, where it's like a lot of, I don't want to say intense, but studio type stuff and ear candy here and there. And his songs are, it's just a completely different process.
He helps you, he writes with the band, or kind of puts his...
So when we work with Feldman, he'll be in there and we'll have ideas and we'll get him in. And so he doesn't orchestrate necessarily, but things like that, they'll go ahead and lay down like drums and things like that. Whereas with Bob Rock, he would have just me taking drums and now do this instead of having like it all kind of programmed and be like, this is like pretty much what we want, like, but do a little flourishes here and there. And I remember my favorite thing working with Bob Rock is he'd be like, all right, now do one for fun. I was like, what the hell is that? He'd be like, just do a full take where it's like a drum solo. He's like, just go for it and I'll see what I can take. And so there was like some really cool stuff that became parts of the songs from that. And so like he would just be like, man, just go nuts. Like, go for it. So it was, for me, obviously it was really fun doing that. But,
well, I mean, I think that's at the epicenter of creativity.
Absolutely.
Is when you learn to just let go and not care and be okay with making a mistake, or be okay with just seeing where the kind of subconscious mind takes you. Because it's not like when you're playing, at least with myself, it's not like it's a very thoughtful process. For me, it shouldn't be. It should be more of a feel process. You should be kind of just going with your instinct and your gut and your just where the emotion of the moment takes you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And coming from a record that it was a bit more pulled back, more 4 on the floor, bass, drum stuff. It was a lot of fun and feeling. And I think doing that, you're pushing yourself, to your physical capabilities and to your limits, and you get some really cool things out of it. And whereas the other way, and I think some of the songs might have had a bit more commercial success because they were a little bit more pulled back, and I don't want to say formulaic, but that
formulaic.
Yeah, more radio friendly stuff. Whereas, I mean, and you see it in the comments. Some are like, I think that's their best album, and other people are like, I think that album's terrible. And you're never going to please everybody. But as an artist, you want to do what you want to do at that time. And if there's a vibe you want to give out, or a message, lyrically. I mean, with my drum playing, I just really enjoyed just going for it, having really quick like double bass stuff. And then it was easier for me to let go and pull things back the next album, because I'm like, all right, that album was that album. I don't need to go like crazy metal on every album. So like as we get, the further along we go, I guess it's a bit more pulled back and I guess relatable to the common listener.
Well, I'm fascinated by this stuff because I'm completely new to this kind of more mainstream radio world, and I had Zach from Shinedown the show, and Keith from Breaking Benjamin, and it's, and one of the questions I asked them is, do you, or even Roy Mayorga from Stone Sour.
Yeah, I love that dude. He's awesome.
Who obviously, very band has a lot of success in radio and things like that. Just asking them about, is there that pressure to write the single or have that song? And for the most part, they say no. I mean, I know with Zach, he was saying how he likes writing hit songs and he likes writing catchy songs. So it's not really, it's not much of a labor. There's no pressure because that's what they do. Yeah. That's just their style of songwriting.
Yeah. They're everywhere on the radio, Shinedown. Like
they kill it.
I listen to Sirius satellite radio, and like if you put on any type of rock station, they'll come on. From any drive I'm on, they'll end up on there. And a lot of their songs, it just works. It flows well. I think earlier in our career, there may have been a bit of pressure because they didn't know, signing to a major label, they didn't know how it's gonna blow up or which direction we're gonna go to. So that I was telling you, the album, the first major label release that we did, we had sent all the songs, and then they go like, you don't have the song yet. Like, you don't have the song yet.
They said that.
Yeah. And so like the last song we did was like the biggest song on that album, called Fallen Angels.
Yeah.
And so like that was like the last song. And then the record after that, I think we did like our biggest song ever, which was In the End. And I mean, earlier we would get some of that. And I think, depending on record labels and management and which way you're
but it seemed like they were right. right? They knew you didn't have it. And and then when you did quote unquote have it, did they know or did you know?
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of at the end of our recording time anyway, and we had to get going on releasing this stuff and sending everything in and preparing it for it to be released. But yeah, I mean, they liked it and they knew, and then we never tried to concern ourselves with that though. We never went like we're gonna do like we're gonna make a hit right now. You know, we were kind of honest with ourselves and try to do things like that. I mean, yeah, we would try to make things. Songs that were in a particular fashion or, you know, vibe or something like that. But I don't think we were like, this one's going to be like the next single, like right here, you know, until we were done with it. Because, you know, you would have to see where it ended up. Like,
well, I'm of the mind with Bad Wolves, because of the kind of band it is, that really I want every song to be a hit. And when I say that, I mean, a song doesn't necessarily have to be on the radio to be a hit, right? Like you can have I think Lamb of God writes heavy metal hits.
Yeah.
You know, you can just go through the album and every song you're just like, holy shit. It sticks in your head and it's memorable, and you know, or you know, band like Killswitch Engage, every song on the record, the whole crowd singing along.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so it's about making everything a banger. Just like whatever, you know, no album cuts, no just something that's here to be moody, you know, and that's the, you know, every time out, that's kind of the goal. But it doesn't mean it has to be on the radio, or that has to be that kind of song structurally, or it has to be soft or that. It's just about, nah, man, we want something that's going to get the place bumping.
Yeah,
whatever,
for sure, yeah.
You know, and I think that's when I think of like a hit. I'm just thinking about something that you put it on, like, you know, when you're hanging out on the bus or you're at the bar and then someone puts on a song, it's like, fuck yeah, that's, you know.
I love stuff like that, especially like revisiting songs from years and years ago that I forgot about that we did. I'll listen to it and I'll be like, oh man, I think this is awesome. And it's not that I'm full of myself or anything. It's just like, I completely get what it is. And those songs may not have even been pushed as a single or anything. And like some of the songs that I like most weren't pushed as singles or whatever. And you know, for whatever reason. And I don't know, it's always interesting. And some people love it. So some people love certain songs, and you know, the band, it's always interesting. And I almost love when, you know, as a group we ask like, oh, what's your favorite song on the album? And everybody's song is different. I mean, we've had several albums that everyone does that. I don't sit there and like ask them every album like, hey, it's interview time, what's your favorite song? But I always love when everybody has a different song on the album. I mean, I just feel like everyone kind of got their creative input out there.
Yeah, and everyone feels invested. Everyone feels that they're being acknowledged and that they're part of the collective. Yeah. You know, and sometimes, you know, I think that was much more common back in the day. Like you'd have a band like Queen where every guy would have songs, or the Beatles or the Eagles or bands like that, where you know, in many ways, some of these bands were essentially super groups where every single person was a songwriter and a singer and could present their output, you know, kind of in a different way. And the truth is most bands these days probably don't have enough writers or people that could do that. Except I know Periphery did an EP called the Clear EP where each guy in the band wrote a song.
Oh yeah.
And it's actually one of my favorite things they've ever done. Yeah, every song is killer. Like, every guy is just like, oh, they're all ridiculously talented. Hey, fuck these guys.
Dude. Okay, I'm so glad you say that, because I'll see like talented musicians and I always go like Luke Holland was a dude that I said this. We met up like a couple months back. And I'm just like, dude, you're in that fuck that guy category. He kind of like looked at me. I was like, no, it's not like disrespectful. It's like when
it's ultimate respect.
Yeah. That's as high as you get. Like, oh, fuck that guy. Like, and it's when you just watch somebody so talented that you're just like, oh, fuck that guy. He's just like, you're
filled with envy.
Exactly.
You're just like,
you're like, oh, you're just incredibly talented, you know? And it's like, I'm glad you said that, because I always like, I have that category of like, fuck that guy. And it's not like anything derogatory or mean or anything. It's like, it's almost a very odd way of showing your respect for how talented they are, you know, like, or at least for me, at least.
Yeah, man. I remember I just saw a video last week where some guy played all of Marty Friedman's solos on Rest in Peace with clean guitar.
Yeah.
And it made you, when you just kind of see exactly what's going on playing wise.
Yeah.
And you're just like, fuck that guy. Fuck Marty Fried.
Yeah.
Like that. Like this dude, just every note was just perfect, and every composition was flawless and was original and was played with feel and it was catchy and it was everything you want to mark. And I've sat down with those solos and tried to play them, and some I do okay and some I kind of I blow it, but it's this thing of I don't know, at least for me, I'm always right now I'm looking down the barrel of a new Bad Wolves record where I'm gonna have to write a bunch of guitar solos.
Yeah.
And it's really important for me to do something special.
Yeah.
And this is speaking as someone who, I'm not the guy who spends 6 hours a day on YouTube learning new techniques and being that guy who's a woodshedder. I kind of use the instrument as a utility to write and create and express myself, right? And the way this band came about, I was kind of on a different plane. I was almost going against everything I had learned or kind of portrayed, which especially with like coming from a band like God Forbid, which was very much a heavy metal band where the guitar and the guitar solos and things like that were at the forefront. It was that's what the songs were kind of arranged around.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And I spent a few years trying to unlearn that because it almost seemed that type of mentality could hinder a certain type of songwriting.
Yeah.
In a way. So now I have to kind of go back in that and put that head on where it's like, okay, here's your time to shine. You have to do something really creative and really cool. And, and not necessarily technically challenging, but it has to have some flair to it,
Sure. Yeah. There's so many musicians, and the longer I do music in my life, I mean, I guess working with different producers, such as Bob and John and stuff like that, it goes for like whatever the song calls for. If it's like a gnarly metal song, I'll do like crazy fills and double bass and like show chops. And if it's sometimes I'm doing a ballad, I gotta pull it way back. And it's taking me a long time to kind of get to that point to where overcomplicating things just to either show your skill level or because I mean it's not always the best in the end. And so like, and even like recording, I would do things that I thought sounded the best, and in the overall, the bigger picture, it's not, and it should be a little bit more pulled back and stuff. And so, yeah, it's always interesting to see which way you're going to go, especially like shaping a new album. If you're going to go more, metal or more rock, I guess, or whatever.
Well,
but,
I think we're really lucky in this time period where I think you can do both. We look look at the success of Avenged Sevenfold. You look at the success of Five Finger Death Punch.
Yeah.
These are arena level bands.
Oh, for sure.
And you look how big a band like Volbeat has become.
Oh yeah.
Where they're not ashamed to be metal and to be heavy and have guitar solos and have double bass and have aggressive vocals. I think there is a lane there that is being even. I look what's happening to our band. Where we have some songs on the radio that are doing really well, but we're a fucking heavy band. Yeah. And people are gonna pick up the record or stream the stuff, and they're gonna see we have these songs, but there's also this other very heavy element to the band, and hopefully we can bring some people into that side of things who maybe wouldn't have gotten into it otherwise. So I think that opportunity is still out there, and you can kind of you don't have to just decide we're a rock band, we're just going to do this, or we're in this boat.
Oh yeah, we've gone all over the board with different genres. I mean, we were kind of always laughing at ourselves or laughing at other people to try to place us in a genre because we can't. Some songs are metal. Sometimes then people are like, they're not metal. Some songs are like almost pop rock, some songs are like, I don't know. We're just all over the place, and that's kind of the way we wanted to be. Like we just wanted to do what we wanted to do. We if we felt like putting a harder, more aggressive record out, we would. If we wanted to pull things back and have it a little bit more melodic and pleasing for the masses, we would. I mean, we would kind of just do whatever we wanted, which was I liked doing that. Yeah, it was fun.
So I know you said there's going to be a big gap coming up in the kind of busyness of the band, and I know that story came out with Ashley a while back, but that was kind of deflected. That you guys because you do have shows coming up.
Yeah. I think a lot of things were misconstrued. I never listened to that podcast. Oh my god, my phone didn't stop for like 3 days, and I'm just like, oh my god, everybody leave me alone. Like stop bugging me. Like everybody, you guys are everywhere. I was like, yeah, well, but yeah, we do have shows coming up. We're planning on doing the 10-year re-release, which I'm not exactly sure when that's going to come out, but I believe the majority of 2019, everyone's going to kind of be exploring their own ventures, so to speak. And so, yeah, it'll be an interesting time. You'll hear some music from a lot of different people in the band, so it'll be cool.
They can take you back at the hospital.
Yeah. I got to go back and do the back office treatments that everyone. No, I'm working on a bunch of different things. Like I was explaining to you before the podcast, I've been doing some session work. I was tracking actually all day today. I did like 11 songs, so I'm kind of brain dead at this point. But yeah, it's just interesting. I mean, we've been working as a band together. I love working with the guys, but just getting different producers or different I don't know, just musicians, and I'm experimenting with a lot of that, and that's a lot of fun. I mean, don't misconstrue what I just said. I'm not leaving the band. The band's not breaking up, but I mean, there will be a little bit of a break coming up here after these shows. We're doing a few in Hollywood and a couple festivals and stuff. So
yeah, I mean, do you think there's, because your band has gotten to certain heights and certain levels, but I think you guys are also one of those bands where you're one song away from moving up to that next level, where it's all the possibility.
Yeah.
And we've seen that happen with bands where they're at one level and then they write that one song. And all of a sudden this happens, or who knows, maybe Andy's going to end up in some, the new, Twilight or something.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you just never know what could happen. Is that something that the band kind of behind the scenes is looking to always try and get to that next plateau? Or
I think we were a bit more driven for that a few years ago. At this point, I think we're doing like the 10-year re-release. I don't know if we're going to be doing like an original before that comes out. I wouldn't imagine we would like release two out, like a re-release and another album. I mean, we may be doing some original songs or something like brand new original songs, but as far as like an album, I don't think right now currently we're looking at that yet. I mean I think the task at hand is to try to do this like re-release thing that we're doing. I mean, we're going to be working on that, even though we have a break and we're not going to be performing for a while. I mean, we're going to be recording and doing that stuff, and so that's what'll be going on behind the scenes. And then also everyone will be doing their own thing too. So it'll be interesting to see what everyone's working on and touring with and things like that.
Right on, man. Well, I can't be more proud of what you've done. And
oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Well, man, listen, man, it's one of those things where how many people have been in this business and this end of things, and they get to a certain level and maybe their personality changes, you don't hear from them anymore, or you're definitely not one of those.
Oh, thanks, man.
Those people. You've just always been just so cool to me, especially like when I moved to LA. You were one of the first people just embrace me and kind of welcome me.
Thanks, man.
And it was, and I definitely of the mindset, you surround yourself with successful people that whatever energy that that kind of will flow forward to you, and and so it's. For me, it's a privilege to have great guys like you in my life to be able to.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that's one of the things we were talking about earlier. It's like establishing these friendships and relationships with people, and wherever their careers take them. Hopefully, one day they're not so full of themselves, or whatever. Everyone, for me, I get happiness when everyone comes up together. Like I've never tried to hold anybody down, hold anybody back, or sabotage anything for anybody. I mean, if I'm coming up, like I want all my boys to come up too, like, and whatever I could do to help out or do anything. And, and so they're not spreading Taco Bell hot sauce on Triscuits, for dinner and having collections call them and stuff. But it's like, thank you, man. That really means a lot to me. But yeah, you're doing great. And likewise, like I'm so stoked for your success too. I mean, I saw you down the street after that corn show last week, and I like just your success and just seeing the photos and the size venues you guys are playing. I mean, I've known Tommy for a long time. I've known John too. And, you know, like I've known some of the band members and stuff. And it's just great seeing you guys just smashing and killing it. And I couldn't go in my car without hearing you guys on the radio too. And so it's like, for me, that's what makes me happy, not envious. You know, it's just like good. Like I'm glad like they're blowing up, you know, like I get so happy and thrilled like that's my buddy. And like I even told my girl, I was just like, oh yeah, remember we saw him at that's Doc from the Beverly Center. She's like, oh yeah. I was like, yeah, that's him. And she's like, oh yeah, I like this song, you know. It's like, yeah, that's him. And so it's, to me, it makes my heart smile, you know, at the risk of sounding a little colorful, but you know, it does. It really makes me smile and makes me happy.
Well, listen, I appreciate that. You know, it's that old line from Reservoir Dogs. Let's not start sucking each other's dicks yet, gentlemen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But with that said, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show, and this has been great.
Oh, thanks for having me, man.
So that track is entitled The Outsider, and it's from Black Veil Bride's latest record, Veil, which came out this year. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed all that. The conversation, I appreciate CC. He's the man. He's just a fucking nice guy. Hopefully we can do some shows with them. Actually, I think he just said they're having a break, so maybe I shouldn't get my hopes up. But that was a lot of fun. Like I said, been meaning to get him on the show for quite some time. And yeah, that was a good one. So just let you guys know, you know, so I leave in a couple days. Gonna be on tour for about 6 weeks. So to be honest, shows will probably not be as rapid fire as they were, you know, a few months ago, just because of the schedule. And you know, when I do this, I want to bring my energy. I want to bring my enthusiasm, and I don't want it to feel like a slog. So I'm definitely going to, you know, I think now we're back in the States, and hopefully, you know, gather a little more mental stability and emotional connectivity and all that good stuff. You know, I definitely want to put that into some good shows. I definitely want to try and I plan on speaking to Jason Hook on the next round, and I have to kind of look see where we're going if I can pick some interviews up. But you know, it's all about energy. I feel like when you've been out this long, your energy gets sapped, and I want to get that energy back and put it back in the show for you guys, and get some good conversations. But I think I'm really gonna save a lot of, you know, the real big stuff. Or when I say big stuff, I mean just kind of, I have the master list of people I want to talk to, and I'm really going to hit that hard after the new year, because I'll be home and I'll have a little more resources and time and just ability to kind of track people down. That's the hardest thing I think people don't realize about this, is just the scheduling and linking up with people. And I like to do them in person. I will do them over Skype, but you know, I like to get up with people and look them in the eye, and also you get a little bit better production with the mics and all that stuff. So anyway, I'm not going to run my mouth, but thank you guys for listening, and you know, hopefully not too many people get bummed out with the gap. You know, I'm definitely in the less is more camp, but I know sometimes people feel like if they're not getting it regularly, they kind of move on to something else, and I understand it, but you're always welcome back, and I appreciate it. Tell your friends, tell your mama, tell your baby daddy that the X-Man is here. Oh yeah, and basketball season's back, and that means Doc Coyle is real happy. Mamba out.
This is the Jabberjaw Podcast Network.